Did you know K Flock looked emotional listening to his own gang member snitching on him? It was announced Bronx drill rapper K Flock reportedly used a firearm against someone who used one against his friend in 2020. Today, that friend testified against him. The snitch's name is Brockington, aka Dougie in the streets. Not to be confused with Dougie B, K Flock's best friend. Dougie was originally arrested for selling and took a plea deal to get out from under his charges and snitched on Flock in return. However, this had Flock unfazed in this jail phone call.
Talk to them, Flock. Talk to them, my dog. Soon come home, man. You got these little boys walking around with no jewels, Flock. They need you. They need you, Flock.
I'm coming, man.
However, Dougie snitching on Flock affects his release date. To understand his release date, it's important to read the case file, because prosecutors asked Dougie in court, "After you got hit, who called you in the hospital?" Dougie answered, "KK called. He said, 'You know we got you, bro.'" The prosecutors then confirmed KK refers to Flock, and Dougie says, "Yes, he was gonna retaliate against whoever hit me." The prosecutors asked him to flat out admit it by asking, "Flock hit them up in retaliation for you?" Dougie said yes, and that someone got grazed during the altercation. And most importantly, they asked if Flock was seen with a firearm, to which Dougie says he had one on him and was on a call with rival team members who were circling their block, which lines up perfectly with Oscar Hernandez's passing, which had Flock's best friend B-Love saying.
Okay, but so I saw some fans who were off at both me and academics after K Flock got locked up because just because I guess, like, you know, in our tone when we talked about it, you know, it might have seemed like we were being a little too presumptuous. But is that weird for you? Because I'm sure you see people all the way from rappers to whoever acting like, you know, your boy is just done and he's cooked in this situation.
I ain't gonna lie, people, especially people that don't even be knowing, like, y'all don't even know what's going on, bro.
He said this because the case files explain how the incident happened, but you tell me if he's guilty. Because court files state on December 23rd, 2021, K Flock was charged with the passing of Oscar Hernandez. Flock is seen on camera walking down the sidewalk in the city with his sister. On this day, Flock wore a blue coat, a shiesty mask, and designer jeans. It's important to note that just minutes before coming into frame, Flock was on IG Live yelling at his ops before putting his phone away. In the footage, you see Flock walking past the barbershop. Oscar immediately notices Flock from inside the shop and runs out to him asking, "What are you looking at?" With history between the two, they begin yelling at each other back and forth. But since Flock was with his sister, he didn't want no problems and continued on his way. However, Oscar continued to escalate the situation by following Flock. For a second, he hesitated and thought to walk back into the shop, but against his better judgment, he continued after Flock. In the following moments, Oscar was seen grabbing inside his jacket pockets. And with Flock realizing this and worrying for his sister's safety, he whipped out a firearm from his jacket and used it against Oscar. He hit Oscar multiple times. Oscar turned to run back into the barbershop but fell to the ground. Once Flock stopped firing, he fled the scene, leaving Oscar lying on the sidewalk by himself. In an attempt to save his life, witnesses at the scene dialed 911. Paramedics arrived on scene and transferred him to a local New York hospital, but he'd sadly pass away. All that was left at the scene for evidence were shell casings and Oscar's slides that he was wearing, but we heard from Bobby on his thoughts about K Flock.
What's it like for you watching the K Flock thing happen? That's crazy. Next big artist coming out of New York.
I love Flock, son. I like that. That's my guy.
Okay.
But, you know, I'm wishing him the best right now, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, for the alleged charges they pushing on him, you know what I'm saying? I'm wishing his family the best. I'm wishing the whole team the best and everything, you know what I'm saying? And I hope he beat them alleged charges, you know what I'm saying? Because he got a lot of future brightness. He got, and I hope, you know what I'm saying?
That would be a sad story if that's the end of the
we ain't gonna think like that, you know what I'm saying?
You gotta stay positive.
The NYPD had no clue who was responsible or what happened for 24 hours. They collected security footage of the crime, but had no way to identify the masked man. Ultimately, they reached out to the public asking for help in identifying their suspect. Unfortunately for Flock, his publicity and music career didn't help his case, because fans started digging and found K Flock had the same designer outfit and was on Instagram earlier that day with a mask and jacket on. Fans picked up on this and were quick to tip off the authorities. They launched a warrant for Flock's arrest, but in his last hours as a free man, he hired a great lawyer who met up with Flock and walked into the police station together. As they did this, his lawyer released a statement. "Yesterday, I accompanied Kevin as he self-surrendered to detectives in the 30th precinct. Arrangements were immediately made with the NYPD once I learned he was wanted. As to the charges against him, we have begun our investigation into these allegations. We will address bail once we have had a chance to review the case and further investigate the DA's noteworthy disclosure." K Flock's lawyer was given all the evidence the feds had and started on Flock's defense.
When the guy hits the ground and is found, he's got a loaded that was in his pocket that his hand was on at the time. You know, we consider that to be self-defense.
So he did take him in self-defense.
That's what the allegation is. You know, I don't want to talk too much about the details of the case, but the government claims that he pulled the, but at the same time, the person that was ground had his hand on a illegal loaded.
Okay. So without saying too much, you're arguing obviously self-defense.
That could be one of the arguments, self-defense. And I would say to the public, you know, somebody's walking up to you with a loaded, it's pretty clear is going to use it, with a criminal record a mile long. Do you want to get, or do you not want to?
Oh, absolutely. I wouldn't hesitate to pull the.
Shortly after the NYPD released their statement, they believed the incident resulted from a long-time beef between street teams. They realized Flock has a long-time affiliation with the Bronx Third Side team. It's on record that Flock was heavily involved in street crimes during the previous years leading up to this incident. With Flock being a big name in the streets, he had a lot of power on decisions and he would often be targeted when his ops retaliated. In the meantime, Flock's lawyers worked on a self-defense claim, but it got much worse for Flock with the announcement. K. Flock was indicted by a federal grand jury for multiple racketeering conspiracy charges, also known as RICO charges. Hip-hop creators reacted to the news knowing just how bad a RICO is by saying, K. Flock just caught a RICO. It's over. DJ Academics even shared, Feds just unsealed an indictment on K. Flock for a RICO charge. The mandatory minimum if he doesn't beat those charges or snitch is life in prison. He still is facing state charges that have him locked up. Pray for him. This ties into the same thing Boozy said about YNW Melly. Once the Feds get you, they'll do anything to keep you.
When they want you, they want you. I knew they wanted them bad when they waited for that law to get passed. So it'd be 8-4.
Oh, right, yeah.
You know, they waited all the way till that law got passed to take him to trial.
Yeah, he was in jail for what, 2 years, 3 years?
Yeah, they could have been took you to trial.
You're right.
They waited till that law got passed and took him to trial a couple months later. When they want you, man. Just don't see how he didn't get a bond after a fucking mistrial.
But Flock's lawyer shared a statement which reads, "We're not surprised by the federal charges as we've been fighting Kevin's state charges for over a year now. Considering the incident was a clear act of self-defense, it wasn't a strong charge. The fact that it's now being used as a basis for a penalty charge is extraordinary. On video, it is clear that Kevin was about to be hit after attempting to walk away from the other person. Only then did Kevin use an item to defend himself and his sister from an armed team member who was about to pull out his item from his pocket. On the bright side for K. Flock, court reporters announced this. Day one of K. Flock trial's over. Instant thoughts are, the prosecutors are not ready. They're stuttering many words, not answering the judge's questions, and not supplying much evidence to invalidate K. Flock's lawyer's defense. They also noted Flock looked emotional at the end of his trial day. Being his first trial, it makes sense. However, his lawyers whispered in his ear saying they're going to win this. So much so that Flock's legal team shared a message from him in jail.
I know what's going on, man. Flock, I know something. Man, like, free me to the guys, man. Hey, yo, like, I'll be back real soon. Shout out to my fans and my supporters, man. I love all y'all, man. For all the youth out there, violence, man. For me, and do what y'all supposed to do, man. For me, get through life correctly, man. Like, get money. You know, man, I'll see you real soon.
But did you know the feds are targeting rappers? Even last week, Lil Baby was called out by the Atlanta police.
The investigation aspect of this, Lamont Freeman was allowed to be a 13-year-old for 27 minutes. Before gang violence ultimately took his life. Gang violence was orchestrated by adults in our city. And cowardly acts of an Atlanta-based rapper that decided to go over into a rival gang stronghold and shoot a music video in a place that he knew he should not have been. And in the subsequent days, we saw and ultimately the deaths of 2 children as a result of his cowardly actions. And you know who you are. And I tell you that this team will work relentlessly to hold you and the persons that you are affiliated with responsible for those actions.
We even saw rapper Young and Ace get name dropped by the Jacksonville sheriff. Are we witnessing a rap takedown by the feds?
So Young and Ace has long been known in Jacksonville. We are consistently monitoring those groups. We have people that are always watching them. I won't speak to the chief's investigation. That's up to TPD. We don't have an investigation on him right now, but he can't move around in Jacksonville without us knowing about it. And that's for the betterment of our community.